Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some of my favorite books and read people hating them. This is a video that I've seen various people do. I don't think it's like any kind of tag type of thing. I don't think there's an original. I'm just going to be reading and reacting to some 1 or 2, if I can't find any 1-star reviews of some of my favorite books. I'm gonna start with the one that I think would be the most painful. Just get it out of the way. City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. Because I love that book so much, and if my friends don't love it, like, that's fine. It's whatever. But yeah, seeing people roasting it, oh God, I feel like it's gonna hurt my heart because I love that book so much. I just want to reread it forever until the end of time. I just want to always be reading that book. Okay, there's only 1% of 1 stars for this. That makes me happy. All right, the very first one just says, "I hated it, Angela." The whole premise is the main character is telling part of her life story to another character named Angela. Okay, here's one that's longer. Oh God, I'm scared. Well, that was unsatisfying. This book read like a narcissistic over-explanation of someone's life. There were moments that were interesting, but on the whole, it was so self-indulgent and mostly unnecessary. It's not actually a memoir, though. So this woman had been asked by the daughter of a man with which she had a close relationship about said relationship. Instead of answering that simple inquiry, this woman writes back the entire story of her life. Full of grandiosity and self-importance, an old woman spills all these justifications about her poor decisions and lack of attachment. What the hell? The young woman just wanted to know if she and the woman's father had had an affair. She did not need all of this monologuing and indulgence. In so many ways, although well-written, this book irritated the crap out of me. I usually love reminiscences in books, but this one just made me feel a little icky, clearly. Why icky? What? Clearly this was not for me, and now I kind of feel like I need a shower and to rethink how I tell stories of my past. Why would you need a shower? It's not like dirty. I'm confused about that bit. Yeah, it wouldn't be a book. Like, what? But yeah, like, it's not real. It's fiction. I don't know. Okay, anyway. They're like, yeah, the lady just wants to know if you and her dad were a thing behind her mom's back. It shouldn't take 200 pages to get to the point. It wouldn't be a good book. Like, it's a book. It's fake. It's made up. Oh, that's so funny. This one's pretty short. It just says, "This was a tough slog for me. My main reaction was boring. I could not find any reason to like or be interested in Vivian." I can see that if people just think it's slow. I know Nashua, she DNF'd it and thought that it was just like boring and really slow. It is very slow paced. It's not like a bunch of excitement and things happening. And I think Nashua and I talked about that, like, with The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, because it's a similar premise, an older woman telling, most of her life story to a younger woman for different reasons, and it's very different stories, but that similar idea. But in Evelyn Hugo, she's, in Hollywood and this, old glamorous Hollywood lifestyle and marries all these different men, and it's a different story. The plot is a little bit more exciting, I guess, than in City of Girls, but the writing, though, oh God. Yeah, that was obvious! Oh my God. Sorry. This starts off with, "This is definitely a book for silly women or those who haven't read anything of substance in some time." Wow, condescension much? Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, that's so funny. And then saying it's predictable and cliched regarding 1940s New York. Who cares? I mean, they care. They're allowed to care. And then I predicted immediately that X character was definitely in a lesbian relationship with so-and-so. Like, that was pretty obvious. I think the point was that to our main character, who was so naive and so, like, blind to the ways of the world. She grew up very sheltered in this very, waspy upper middle class, upper class, high society, right? I think that was the point, is that it was super obvious to everybody around and to the reader. Like, when I buddy read it with Ola, she wasn't like, oh my God, gasp, I had no idea. But the main character is totally surprised by this. And I think that's the point, is that she just was so naive and sheltered that she couldn't see it, even though it was pretty much right in front of her face. But okay. Like, I don't think that means the book is predictable. It's like part of that character. Anyway. Oh God, someone saying, the same person, I've noticed a great deal of fiction with deceivingly outstanding reviews to you that has the triumvirate of poor quality prose, where a lack of innovative storytelling and poor character development. But the whole thing was her character development. It was like her growth as a human. Okay. But I'm sensing that the only reason these bits of fiction are getting glowing reviews is due to the inclusion of a homosexual relationship. Okay. While I think we need to have homosexual relationships more commonplace in literature, I'm not of the belief that the simple act of putting a homosexual couple in your book without having other integral good storytelling ingredients makes it a 5-star novel. Nobody thinks that, and the homosexual relationship in the book isn't even the main thing. That's not the focal point of anything in the book. It just is there. What? No one loves this book because there's the gay couple. No one says that. I'm so confused. Oh God. Also confused about what reviewers thought was hysterical. Any man or woman with a brain will find the comedy of this book contrived and made up of what my mother would have called silly women jokes. What? Oh my God. I have so many thoughts on that, but I'm gonna, be nice. I don't know this person. I think it got the high review because of the sex passages. It's such a trashy book. What? No, this isn't a smutty romance. No one would read this book and be like, I'm gonna give it 5 stars because there was sex in it. That wasn't even the point of the book. Oh my God. The scene with the doctor was so disturbing that I stopped there. It wasn't that disturbing. She was losing her virginity and getting paid for it. I guess some people could. I feel like this mindset is people who are thinking that oh, it's just the sex passages, it's trash. I feel like you've got to just be a bit more of a conservative minded, modesty is best type of person, I guess, which, is fine. Everybody to each their own. I guess this is just a case of, I don't know, what is it? Suspending your disbelief? Because this is another one. 1 star, but then says, I hate that this book made me cry. I hate that I stuck it out to the end, waiting for something, and I really hate that people are singing its praises. Nothing happens in the first 55% of this book. Nothing. Not a thing. Yeah, it's not an action-packed book. I don't think it claims to be either. Then for 20 pages, we have the most boring and lame conflict ever to exist, only to have it resolved in another 250 pages of nothing. The framework for this novel, A Letter to the Daughter of a Man, is fine and dandy. But Viv's sexual exploits really didn't need to be in that letter. The last quarter of the book is the only relevant content to this letter. The first 75% is a self-indulgent woman talking about herself. It's a book! No one actually is gonna write 300-some pages to someone. That's... God, I don't know. That didn't bother me in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, most of them just say that it's boring. Wow. Yeah, mostly it seems to be that all these 1 stars, which again is only 1% of all the reviews for the book. But most of these are saying that it's boring, that she's a trashy whore, and they don't like that there's so much sexual exploitation, or people not being able to suspend their disbelief, or not wanting to, and that's fine, whatever, of like, she wrote some 500 page letter to this woman. Like, obviously, it's a fucking novel. She didn't literally write a novel. It's made up, guys. But, you know, whatever. They don't have to love it. Okay, so yeah, that was kind of painful, but it's fine. It's fine. What do we look at next? I think next I'm going to try Jade War. I don't know, I'm scared. I'm scared, you guys. Oh, God, because I loved it so much. Oh, there's only 12 1-star, not even 1%. So I can't see them. I'm not going to read this entire thing because it's quite long, but this is the only 1-star review that has an actual review. Exhausting with very little payoff. While I wasn't swept away by the first installment, I enjoyed it enough, and several of the characters, to be encouraged to read on to discover what happens to them. However, getting through this second installment was an arduous task. Oh no. Empty and petty plot that weaves a tale with few twists. What? And is predictable in every way. There are a few moments that stand out as impactful, and others that should feel impactful are hurt by spoon-fed, ill-placed world-building excuses or weak plot tools. That is harsh. Harsh. All right, blah, blah, blah. The emotional impact simply is not present to you. I'm just kidding. I guess I'm mad, but like, I'm honest like this when I don't like stuff too, and I'm sure there are people that are like, I know there are, because like on my Rage of Dragons review, I've had so many people be like, this is why you're wrong. I'm like, whatever, that's how you read it. But yeah, the emotional, I cried so many times in this book. There are a few moments within the text where you can see where the impact should be. However, it is so dry and either so disingenuous or detached that the emotional impact never lands and never resonates. To you! Oh, God. All right. The ending wraps up, and I feel that there was very little progress through the entire novel that couldn't be summed up in the next novel within 2 paragraphs. However, the journey to get to this point, to tell this long, unending, drawn-out info dump, was unnecessarily long. Was it long and long? Was it long? I'm just kidding. In the end, nothing was said about anything, really, which I think could have saved it, but I guess not. What? Okay. Okay, let's look at 2. There's only 1% 2-star. This is hilarious. When I die, I want this book to lower me into my grave so it can let me down one last time. I was really enjoying it first, but as I kept reading, I got so bored that I had to force myself through the last 300 pages. What? What? I can see the beginning, and that was with Jade City too. Like, there's build-up for sure, where there might be some things happening, but nothing really high stakes happens for the first bit of the book. Like, you're kind of building up to stuff. But to say that the last 300 pages were boring, what? Oh, man. I know that Fonda Lee has put a lot of time and effort into this series. I can't imagine how much thought and research must have gone into the world building, and I feel like I disliked this book because of my own personal preferences. I mean, yes, because everything that you feel about any book you read is because of your own personal preferences. It's all subjective, you guys. Every thought we have about a book is entirely subjective, unless there's a book that has like accidentally has typos or accidentally has horrible punctuation or some shit like that. That's like technically objectively bad. But aside from that, everything is subjective. So this person, basically they're saying they're character driven and they just didn't get connected to the characters. I mean, okay. And then lastly, I thought this book was supposed to be emotionally traumatizing. It was not. Yes, it was. I've never been a fan of the Godfather movies, let alone the books. Maybe that explains my reaction to this series. I mean, yeah, it's very like mafia, crime family, based. While the first book, Jade City, was essentially political, this second volume focuses more on the smaller scale family relationships of the protagonists. Yes, I would agree. But while it's more intimate, it's still just a mafia book with a fancy coding. I'm just not that interested in mobsters, and that's what these characters are. People who abuse others just to maintain the special status they think they deserve. I mean, kinda, yeah. Oh man. While the first book had issues, it was also unabashedly fun. This one, not so much. The plot plods, the characters are inconsistently drawn, and they fall so solidly into the mold of gangster that there is no room left for understanding or compassion. Only horror at their lethal hypocrisy and their bold idiocy. Damn! Oh, man. Man, this is just so funny. So many of these are saying that they really enjoyed Jade City and they did not like Jade War. And I'm like, what? I really liked Jade City a lot, but I loved Jade War so much more. Very boring and took ages to finish. This is a fair thing. So this one, they say, in Jade War, Lee expands her world building far too much with jarring time jumps and overloads the reader with tedious and intricate minutiae of international politics. I mean, I could see like not enjoying that part of it. I didn't feel like that strongly about it. But like there is a lot of there are time jumps. I didn't feel like they were jarring, but there are time jumps. And there is minutiae of the international politics. I didn't find them tedious, but, you know, differences. This, though, one thing that these books lack, and that I think prevents me from falling in love with any characters, is the absolute absence of humor. Not even one character can crack a joke ever. They aren't, like, super humorous and stuff. I feel like Hilo, though, Hilo's got some things every now and then. But it is pretty serious. The characters are all pretty serious. Would have rather been reading Tolkien or Jordan. Jade City started off well. Jade War is just flat out boring. I will probably not be reading the final book in the trilogy unless there is a book drought when it is released. Also, I just flat out do not understand all the 4- and 5-star ratings for this book. And then in all caps, it is not a good book. To you! What? Oh, man. There are very few books where I genuinely feel like, what the fuck? Why do people like it so much? Like, there's a couple where I do feel that way, and, like, I might indicate it or whatever, but I'm not gonna, like, yell at people or make people feel shitty if they did like it. You know what I mean? Like, even though I don't understand how everybody loves it, obviously a lot of people love it. And, like, hey, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you had a good reading experience when I did not, you know? I don't know. All right, I feel like I've been recording for a hot minute. I only did 2 books, but how long have I been recording? What's another one I could do that, like, would hurt my heart? Ooh, I'll Give You the Sun. All right, I'll do one more, and I'll try to make it quick, because I've been filming for a minute, and I don't want this video to be 12 years long. I'm going to predict that most of these reviews are going to talk about the writing style and the nonsensical aspects of it, the metaphors and things being used. I almost guarantee. 4% 1 star. A simple enough idea, but I was let down by several issues. First and foremost, the main character's age of 13 meant I couldn't fully connect with the character. I mean, it wasn't a secret that it was like teenagers, but okay. Immature, inexperienced, a time for self-discovery was not a matter of plausibility, but that I don't particularly like reading books that have POV characters younger than 16. Somewhat my fault since I overlooked the details, focusing on the hype. I mean, it's totally your fault. Aside from 2 young characters, the chapters were too long. Okay. Pages upon pages of confusing, painted style, including metaphors that crossed the boundaries of deciphering whether they are metaphors at all, disrupting the flow and clarity of significant events. That's the whole point. Like, And then they're mad that it's a coming out as for like a queer coming out story because sometimes it can be refreshing to read something where the main focus doesn't focus on that. People have faced severe struggles of being who they are, but there are some people who haven't. Seeing that made aware is a true and good perspective to tell. So you just wanted her to like have the character not have any problems being gay or coming out? I mean, okay, read a different book then. Like, that's not fair to like tell an author like you should have done it this way. Like, okay, are you the editor? I'll give you the sun. More like I'll give you death by 1,000 metaphors. Yeah. Oh man, I have nothing more constructive or articulate to write about this book other than I hated it. I actively hated this book. I'm clearly in the tiny minority though. Noted. I love how everyone is so in love with this book. Meanwhile, it is absolutely one of the worst books I've read in a while. The Jandy Nelson prose, and then it's just a block of purple. It is. It's very like heavy with the metaphors, and they're nonsensical metaphors, but like it borders on magical realism, but it's not. Like, the things that are being described aren't actually happening. It's one character in particular, Noah, who does this more than Jude does. But yeah, it's so metaphorical and nonsensical and like flighty and stuff that like doesn't make sense. Like at one point, I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it's one of my like favorite quotes I saved, where he's like, they talked, and then he's like, and then everything changed, and it felt like if we turned the lights on, we'd both be bears. Like, what? You know what I mean? But for me, it's so fun, and it's so like, oh, who thinks of describing something that way? But like, I know exactly what you mean. You know? I don't know. And the one where he says, my mother wasn't like other mothers. My mother had her own weather. Because he's looking at his mom and she's like washing dishes or something, and he sees her skirts like billowing around her from wind. But it's not really happening. He just sees her this way. You know what I mean? And I live for it. But as I suspected, a lot of people don't. This one's so cute. This book was not for me. I'm trying to write nice reviews if I didn't like something. First of all, Jandy Nelson is a sweet lady and a good writer, but her writing style isn't my type. It has nothing to do with her. It just isn't my cup of tea. Yeah, a lot of these 1 stars are actually DNFs who the metaphors are strange and pretentious. Writing style came across as an attempt to be poetic, didn't grab me. Yeah. All right, that is all I will do. It was kind of painful sometimes, but not as painful as I thought. I mean, obviously, it's a fun time for me. People can hate stuff I love. It's okay. Apparently, I'm a silly woman, though, for liking City of Girls. Oh, God, the condescension of that one still. Whew. Hope you guys enjoyed this, watching me cringe and be jokingly sad for a little bit. Don't forget that if you feel so inclined and are able, you can now join as a member of my channel. If you go down below the video, you'll see the little join button by the subscribe button, and you'll have a list of the tiers and different perks that you can get by becoming a member of my channel. You are not obligated to do this by any means. I will have the video linked up below where I describe everything in more detail and explain it all a little bit better there. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.